welcome to My Waeguk Life, the podcast where we are all about discussing the foreigner experience in Korea,
as well as how professional life fits into that. As Waegukins, we are always trying to find a way
where there seems to be no way.
It's My Waeguk Life. Hi, welcome back to another week of My Waeguk Life. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Anna. This week we have Ariel again in our studio. Hi, Ariel.
Hello.
So we will continue our interview from last week. The last question of the week was, how are you spending this New Year's Eve? So what are you planning to do? And we will read some answers after our interview.
So stay tuned for our question of the week as well as the song recommendations of the week.
Okay, so Ariel, hi.
Hello.
Again.
Here's
part 2 of Ariel.
Yes, as we were talking last week, I got to think about way more questions that I initially wanted to ask you. So I don't know how long it will be. I hope we can get through it at some point.
Before we start, I do have a hopefully not offensive question. I know it's never good to start off a question like that, but it kind of links to the misconceptions of your country. Like, I have a thing where I like pronouncing words from people's cultures or languages the way they would pronounce it. So, what was it? Last week when 2 weeks ago when Anna did her interview, she told me that Anna is more the foreign Western way to say her name, and Europeans say Anna.
Anna.
So I learned that. When I was younger, I don't know why it popped up, but how to say your country, it's like the name of your country, is Israel, but I've heard Israel. Like, where does that distinction come from, and is it correct, or is it just something foreigners came up with?
I admit that I didn't give much thought to it. Regarding my name, this is actually pretty comfortable in Korea. My Hebrew pronunciation is Ariel. Ariel. And in English, it's Ariel. And I tend to, let's say, less like it. But in Korean, it works pretty great. It's Ariel. It's like, okay, I'm fine with that. Just do this. Yeah. But the thing is, sometimes when they hear this name, they think about the Little Mermaid, the Disney movie, and then they say Ariel. Because they take the English, when they change the R to O.
Right.
So, no, Ariel. And it's, you can write it really well and it's pretty accurate. I think, I try to pronounce is right. If I'm really not sure, I will ask. But, if someone mispronounce my name, I will, it depends how much it depends on the moment. Sometimes I don't bother. Sometimes I can correct. For me to check if a person is respectful towards me and my culture, I cannot judge it by, one word or one pronunciation. I will I will hear the conversation, I will see the questions, and then I will have a better picture which I can judge.
That makes sense. I know there's some people who are sensitive to those things, so I'm like...
Yes.
I think, you need to understand that, just when I think about it, I think about what if I would be in the opposite position? Do I want to people judge me just because I, mispronounce something? I would want them to judge me based on, my conversation, my thoughts, my questions. So my motto is, you want to be treated in a certain way? Great. You should treat others the same way as well. You don't want to be overjudged and people to get hurt by something that is relatively small. Okay, so, act the same. No double standards.
Yeah, that's true.
I prefer people having mistakes in my names rather than, people who pretend to know something about Middle Eastern politics, and then they come with a so-called question which contains a lot of, I would say, biased generalization, demonization, and my favorite, double standards. And, it's a very toxic questions from the so-called informed. So I rather have them like misinformed and even ask me funny questions like, is Hebrew like English? Rather than, people who pretend that they are informed yet they have no clue what they are talking about.
Right. That's true. That makes sense.
So what is the number one thing that you want people to know about Israel?
That it is really yummy experience. I mean, this is... the country is way smaller than Korea. So, you can travel kind of fast with a car because our public transportation is not as efficient as Korea. But, you have Jews who are the majority in Israel from different backgrounds, from Iraq, Lebanon, Morocco, Yemen, Ethiopia, Poland, Romania, Germany, and even India. All are together. They all brought the community culture and food, and they just, it became one part of, one culture, but it's kind of a multicultural culture. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but bear with me.
Oh, no, trust. I understand, because Jamaica's motto is out of many, one people. So because all of those cultures came together, that's how Jamaica became Jamaica. So I guess.
So I like that concept. My mother's best friend, she was born in Iraq, and they had to live under very dire circumstances in the 90s, 50s. But I grew up on Iraqi food. And while I may not look like someone who grew up on Iraqi food, I do, and I eat spicy food really well. Although Iraqi food is not always that spicy, not compared to some other foods from North Africa and the Middle East. But you talk about misconception. I always sit down with Korean people in restaurants, and then there is like kimchi or wasabi sometimes if we are in Japanese restaurants. And 매워, it's spicy. And I'm like, 네, 괜찮습니다.
I love seeing reactions of Korean people where they're like, oh, it's so spicy. 맵지 않아? And you're like, no, it's okay. 괜찮아요.
But I think, I have to be fair. I mean, our viewers may not be able to see us, but I do not look like the average Israeli. Whenever I'm in the airport in Israel, taxi drivers approach me in English, even though I was born in Israel. And I don't look like the average Israeli. The average Israeli, you won't be able to differentiate the average person from Jordan and the average person from Israel. Because most of the Jewish people in Israel, their descendants are actually from what you may call Arab Jews, Jews, and then you have the almost 20% of Muslims as well. It's really hard to differentiate unless there is a religious garment that they wear, and then you can tell for sure. But there were many times, even in the airport, that I was looking at people and I thought that they were from one country, and then, you hear their accent. It's like, oh, they're Israelis with, like, the most Israeli accent there is. So you can never tell. So I am kind of misleading. Even though my grandfather, if you look at the picture, you can immediately say that he is not European. I look, my face and, my skin color is actually very misleading regarding my, let's say, my eating habits and just where do I come from.
Right. That's one of the things I've had to curve coming to Korea, and it's weird that Korea of all countries would teach me this because they're Korean, but not judging foreigners just based on look, because sometimes people see a Caucasian person, they go, oh, that person's either from America, Canada, or the UK. And then you're like, nah, I'm from South Africa. I'm like, wait, what? Or people look at me and they think I either come from America or Africa. And I'm like, no, I'm from Jamaica. That's in the Caribbean. I have roots in Africa, of course, but I also have roots in Britain. Like half of my grandmother's side of the family is from Wales. So
Yeah.
it's like here is where I've learned that you can't look at people, no matter their skin tone, no matter they're Asian, Caucasian, Black, and you can't go, you're definitely from here.
I think you get this a lot with taxi drivers.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's like, for me at least, it was the automatically questions like 미국 분이에요? Like, 미국에서 오셨어요? I think it's kind of a mere reflection. We see what happens when others judge us based on our look. And I think then we learn that, not to do it ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. Because at first, it's not that being from America is bad, but when people be like, "Oh, are you American? 미국 사람?" And I'm just like, no. I was like almost offended. Not because being from America is bad, but I love my country so much, and I love being Jamaican. So it's like, what? No, not from America.
Yeah.
But so I learned to just ask people, "Where are you from?" rather than be like, "Oh, you look like or you sound like you're from this country."
Yeah, I think we should definitely do that. I think that, as you said, it's not a bad thing to come from America, but there are actually people who get really offended. I think that being offended doesn't help the person who asks to understand better if you, criticize him in an unkind way. And it's not helping you inside to feel better. So my point is, let's learn to be more respectful and still be more forgiving. Don't assume automatically that this person doesn't respect you, even if, he didn't ask the right question or had the wrong assumption.
Yeah, those are lessons you learn the more you travel. Because when you're just from your country and you only speak to people from your country, you don't get questions that pull you out of your box very often.
Yes.
I totally agree. I mean, I'm not offended because as I traveling and went to the airport and saw that even Israeli people talks to me in English, I realized that, okay, there is something on my look that gives the wrong message, that maybe give the wrong impression. And like, who am I to judge others if my own people...
They come to you with English.
Okay. What I also want to ask, because... Okay, so I have two questions. First is, as a student, what was the biggest challenge for you?
You mean as a language student or university student?
University student.
I think, it's kind of... When on the third week of the first semester, I was hospitalized for 1 week. When I was very young, I had some problem in my digestion system, and it came back. And it's okay. I was okay. But the thing is, I realized just how much alone I am. Here I was away from my foreigner friends from the language school, and I was lucky to have one Israeli friend. Remember, it was just 3 weeks from the beginning of the first semester.
Yeah.
I didn't know many people. And she came and visited me, and she brought some friends. It was a very scary experience on the one hand, especially the first day when they said I might need to do operation. And my father was about to buy a ticket. But on the second day they said, okay, you don't need operation. You just need, you need you need to be here for a week. But I gotta tell you, those 3 weeks were very extreme. The competition and everything, and everybody wants an A+. And I didn't eat well. I studied until 2 a.m. But then this week made me realize that I don't really need it. I don't need those A+. I don't aim a career in the academic field. I don't want to impress any professor with something that I don't have, with desire that I don't have.
Yeah.
And my health is the most important thing. Look at yourself, Ariel. You cannot eat for 1 week what does all this A plus worth if you don't have your health?
Yeah.
And seeing people at the hospital, you see people in so many dire conditions, it just gave me a total different perspective. So while it was very dreadful experience, I think it prevented a lot of stress and tension that could have come later on if I didn't spend 1 week at the hospital.
That's a good thing. I think you learned it so early, even though you had to go through that to learn it, because I still have friends who, the Korean competition, like even if you're not used to it from before, when you get sucked into it, it's easy to fall into that. Oh, my classmates are studying until 4 a.m. So should I.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I need to sleep 8 hours because no 8 hours, no six-pack.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they do say in health and fitness that sleep is probably equal to like good eating.
Yeah.
For getting
Muscles don't grow if you don't let them sleep. I mean, it's not. It's a fact. And if there is someone who have a six-pack without sleeping, well, that's because just for low fat percentage from genetics. But if you really want to have a good body, you need to sleep. And this Korean lifestyle of studying doesn't go well.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so
That's why I don't have a six-pack.
Yeah, it's not genetics, it's Korean lifestyle.
So you say you had a second question?
Yes, I have a second question because I know you were working here for some time. So I was wondering, for you personally, how did you feel? If yes, how did this transition from being a student to being a worker in Korea affected you? Did that affect you or not?
I think, I'm not sure if is it a good thing or a bad thing. I didn't have a 9-to-5 job in Israel. All I did in Israel was student job and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have this thing, in Israel we do this, but Korea, they do this. Why? Oh, it's comfortable, it's uncomfortable. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding being 직장 생활, the working life, more Korean than Israel.
Like Korea is all you know.
Exactly.
Mm.
So I think, it was actually the most difficult thing that I had to endure was the fact that, at the beginning I used to wear really nice clothes because I didn't know that in the IT industry they don't dress really well to work.
No, they're very casual.
But I didn't know. Nobody told me.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, those clothes are they tend to be not very good for people who tend to be really warm. They're not really breathing well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I tended to sweat a lot, especially in the train in the winter, with the heating system.
Yes.
So I didn't know that this is the cause, but I developed a really, some kind of a skin problem. I didn't know what it is. And I spent a lot of time going to hospitals and I didn't know what's going on. And here I was living my dream, working in the gaming industry, but, I was in pain.
Mm.
Actually, rather than being the first foreigner in the company, dealing with, language barrier, this barrier, the most traumatic thing for me was actually the skin problem.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things that kept me going was working. The fact that finally I could make this game look the way I want the game to be. Mm. So again, I don't know, maybe my experience is very different. Maybe it has to do with the fact that I'm working in the industry that I want to work. But I think, again, I knew exactly where I'm going. I knew it will be difficult. I mean, you're the first foreigner. There are many things they don't know as well. I'm sure it was difficult for them as well. Mm-hmm. And, luckily I eat Korean food well, and there are many things that I do well. It made it easier. Still, yes. It's very hard for them as well. And it's very important that no matter how difficult things for you are, sometimes just, stop, put yourself in their shoes and realize that they endure a lot as well. So, I cried a lot to my family back then, but it was mainly because I have to deal with all of the stress of, new job, first foreigner, but what broke me, it was that I had to deal with this pain and hospitals, all the bureaucracy of hospitals and visa. And that was too much to handle. But I did it. I did it nevertheless. So, yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think when you enter work life, rather than just treat it as that work life. If you want to be there, be there. Don't be like, oh, but back home, we didn't have lunch at 1. Or so. I think that is a good point.
Yes.
Yeah, I think even when people. There were people who are more tolerant to foreigners and less. I remember saying, this February, it's very strange. It's already warmer, and I remember that last February was much colder, and someone's like, "You're just foreigner. You don't remember well." There were times where those things will really pisses me off, and now I'm like. Nah.
Yeah, sometimes that's the attitude you have to have, like, nah.
and it was, and then there were talks that because the climate is changing, everything comes faster, and then you see the flowers blooming faster, and like, well, I may be a foreigner, but I know my body temperature.
Okay, so to close out our interview section, we have what we call a fire round. We're each going to say one thing, each going to pick a category, and you're going to tell us the first thing that pops into your mind as it relates to your country. Do you want to go first, Anna?
Okay. So, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Best food.
Shishlik.
What is that?
Shishlik is like, well, you take a part of the chicken and you put it on. Maybe you know it as shish kebab.
Oh,
well, we call it shishlik, but I think you have those restaurants when they serve actually like the panjan here, like the small dishes, lots of salads and then you get the meat and you eat hummus and, with pita, which is like, round shaped flat bread. And but I don't know if it's the fast food. It's just the first thing that I could think of.
Wow.
it's like the rep food.
I think, Middle Eastern food is very popular in Israel. We have our own twist, just like any other Middle Eastern country. They have their own twist. And and it can be spicy, which I really, really love. So, and thanks to that food, I have no problem with Korean food.
Okay, and the second category is if someone is taking a vacation to Israel, where's the first place you recommend they go?
I think, well, if you like beach and party, then definitely Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is the most, it's not the capital, but it is very multicultural, very laid off. If you appreciate like tolerance towards, I would say, LGBT people, you could actually see people holding hands and nobody cares. I saw it myself, and it was such a trivial thing. I hope it will be more trivial in all parts of Israel and the world. It's very open, very liberal. If you can go to the beach, and even in the winter it's 20 degrees Celsius, so you can go to the beach. It's like all the time. If great. You tend to be more a spiritual person, even not necessarily religious, but spiritual, go to Jerusalem. I think you can go so many holy places with cultural and historical meaning.
Right.
I would recommend to do both. So you have the fun part, the lay down part, the beach, and then you can go and learn a little bit. And again, compared to Korea, Israel is really small, so you don't have to travel a lot.
Sounds good.
Just don't come during the summer. It's bloody hot, and you will sweat like. Come in the spring or during the summer. Don't come in the summer. Spring or autumn, I would say, are the most recommended season.
Nice.
Okay, so the last category is music. Israeli music. I'm really curious about that. I think I have never heard any Israeli music.
I think, as I told you, there are so many different kinds of, Jewish cultures. I think, the closest thing to Israeli pop music is like what we call Mediterranean music. It has like a bit of a Greek, a bit of an Arab vibe, but the lyrics tends to be in Hebrew. This genre was overlooked by so many people from the cultural elites for so long, and still is, to be honest. But this music always makes you happy, and even if the lyric is not top-notch, not top sophisticated, there is something that wants you to make you move. And I think Israelis know how to dance thanks to this music. And every wedding, even my sister's wedding, there is no way that a wedding won't have songs from this genre. And throughout the time, you have so many different artists that do implement a lot of sophisticated element. And I think there are many people who call themselves open-minded, people of the world, and then they talk about this genre, and it's like, wow. But I think this is through this fun music, you can really tell if a person is really open-minded or just saying he or she is open-minded.
Okay,
cool.
Right.
I need to
Learn
check it
something
out.
new.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us last week and this week. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we hope that you will come back someday. Why not?
When our podcast picks up some more,
Yes.
we'll do like this was our first official guest.
I actually had a lot of fun time talking. I mean, as you can see, I love to talk. And if people want to hear more, I shall give you more.
Okay. We will remember that definitely, right?
Oh, my.
We'll call you again.
Okay, thank you so much. And now on to our second segment, the question of the week. To answer the question of the week or make suggestions for this segment, send us an email to libridgeglobal@gmail.com. Last week we asked, what is your plan for this New Year's Eve? So what's your plan, Kelsey?
I'm not 100% sure, but I used to work at this restaurant called Southside Parlor, and they always do a New Year's reserved tables, bottle set type compliment thing.
That's nice.
And I think I might run through there. If not, I might just sleep through, sleep into the New Year.
Oh, and then it's a New Year.
Wake up the next morning and be like, it's 2019. What about you? Do you have any plans?
No plans. I have not even a glimpse of a plan. I think it will be just like impromptu kind of plan.
I feel like Korea allows for that, where even on the day you can just be like, I'll go somewhere and hang out.
So what am I gonna do? Maybe this. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Because Korea never sleeps. Seoul never sleeps.
True.
And especially on New Year's. I went 2 or 3 years ago. I was in Hongdae the whole night, and everybody were pretty much awake.
Yeah.
So I think, there's not the problem that, I don't have a plan and I will be crying in my room. No.
That's true. There will be something you could do and somewhere you can go. Right?
There's always something.
So we have a couple responses from
Yes.
friends.
Yes.
I'll read one from my friend, Jermer.
Okay.
He says, I'm spending my New Year's in my house with my significant other and a bottle of wine. No one, and I mean no one, can pay me the money it would take to get me out of my house in this cold weather when it's neither work nor an emergency.
Uh-huh.
I feel that on a spiritual level.
That much?
It is so cold right now.
Oh, yes, today morning it was so cold. That's true.
I'm just not made for it. I think 25 years in a tropical country has just set me up to hate winter for life.
True. That might be it. I don't know what you are experiencing because I have 4 seasons just like in Korea. So I'm not suffering as much in winter. I suffer the most in summer.
Really? Well, Korea's summers are suffocating to me, but Jamaica gets just as hot. But we have like more sea breeze. So
Yeah, that's
it's not
better.
as bad. Like I spent the last couple of days, every time I feel like a cold breeze, I go to my phone, I open my weather app, and I go, but what's the weather like in Jamaica? It's the worst thing I do to myself.
Yes, I
Because
guess so.
at night, Jamaica is like 26 degrees. In the day, yes, at this time of the year. In the day, they're like 30. And I'm just like, oh my god. And I'm dying in minus 10 degree weather.
Oh my goodness, can I cry?
Yeah, so.
Okay, we have another response from Sandra. Her plan is to sit down, reflect on 2018, write down in her diary and set some plans for 2019 and go for the New Year's Eve service.
That sounds like a good girl type of night. I
Yes.
haven't been to church for New Year's in a couple of years. Have you ever gone to church for New Year's?
Maybe in the past, but
Not recently.
Not recently. Definitely not recently. But writing in my diary, I realized I didn't write in my diary since like November, and that's so bad because I used to write every day, and I just kind of gave up on it, but it was not my decision to give up. So I just feel bad for my diary right now.
We should do this together because actually one of my things is I don't know about every day. I used to write every day when I was in Jamaica, but coming to Korea, I write like every 2-3 months. I'm like, why haven't I written? So I'm like at least once a week to like round up my week and everything that's happened, and then start journaling going forward.
Yeah, I think I need to sit down today and like before the next year I want to feel out what happened, because then later you read it and you're like, oh, that's what I was feeling at this time, and maybe you are going for something similar in this moment. You're like, okay, I went through this, so
this is how I made it out, and I agree with that. So one more response here from the friend people. Easy says, I'll be in my hometown for Christmas for the first time in many years, so I'm going to wrap myself in a blanket, wrap that blanket around me and my mom, and stick to her up until 2019 shows its face.
Aww, that's so sweet. Oh my goodness.
That is the most sentimental thing I've heard in a while, but I also feel that because I haven't seen my mother face to face in a while.
Yeah.
So I'd probably be the same. But that's so sweet.
Or I will be like, I will just grab my dog and I'll not let her go until 2019 is in front of my eyes.
I think my dog would like that too much, and then he would not let me go by the time I would have to go back to Korea.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of the question of the week for this week. Starting next month, we'll be changing up the segment just a tad. Instead of a question of the week, we'll have a theme for the month. And you can write to us with your stories, tips, tricks, or questions you would like us to discuss as it relates to that topic. For next month, the theme will be work stress. We want you to tell us what stresses you at work, how you cope, and the obvious funny stories about your boss.
Oh, yeah. We can do the whole podcast about that.
We can. So send us an email with your answers or leave us a comment wherever you can leave comments.
And now it's time for my favorite segment of this podcast, which is Recommended Song of the Week.
Okay, remember, if you'd like to send in a recommendation, send us an email at thebridgeglobal@gmail.com or drop us a comment wherever comments can be made. Okay. What is your song this week?
I am so excited. I don't know why I got so excited about this song, but I don't think I can qualify this as a musical song, but maybe because it's Disney, and when you think Disney, you think musicals kind of.
Yeah.
So on Christmas Day, I finally got to watch the Nutcracker and the Four Realms, right?
Oh, Nutcracker is definitely, they have a play for Nutcracker. That's definitely musical worthy.
So I was just watching it, and the movie's great. It's just like chill out movie, just perfect for Christmas. You feel like a child and just look for the story and beautiful colors. But then the movie ended, and they always play the song at the end of the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And then I started listening to the lyrics, and I'm like, oh, I like that a lot. And then I was so surprised by my own reaction to that song. I mean, the song title is Follow Me, and it's by Andrea and Matteo Bocelli. Do you know them? Yeah. Like, I grew up with Andrea Bocelli music because my mom loved him and his music. Yeah. So we were playing it for like some time, all the time, a whole day. And I didn't know he has a son, but he has. But anyways, this song is so beautiful, and the lyrics are really, really nice. But I will not spoil you guys. Like, check it by yourself, because I think the way this song touched me, it can touch you. So I will not tell you what that's singing about. But it's not really about how the Nutcracker is handsome and he's in love with some girl. But no, there's more depth to that, in my opinion. How about you, Kelsey?
So my recommended song of this week is called Fall by a sister duo, keeping it with the family thing, called Hallie and Chloe. For all you pop lovers out there and the Beehive listeners, they are the proteges, I guess, of Beyonce. Like, she's the one who like founded them and like got them into proper like studio music. It's off their latest album called The Kids Will Be Alright. I love that album so much. Like, this song specifically is like a somber song, but it's somber with a positive message. Basically it's saying, like, so what if things in life are hard? We'll work through it and we'll make the best of it. Like, we can always find the good in a bad situation. Like, the key point lyrics are, so what if the rain falls? Let's find the gold at the end of the rainbow. So what if the sky falls? We'll build a life right on the cotton clouds. So they're like, no matter what bad happens, we'll find the good and the beauty at the end of that journey. And I'm feeling like my recommendations have been following that tune. I'll try and like change it up next year. It's always been about, I gotta get through this tough time, but that's kind of where I am in my life, where it's like I'm working through to find that gold at the end of the rainbow. But the song is like a very beautiful song, and they have extremely beautiful voices. Not like, they don't try to be pop at all. They're very jazz inspired, very indie inspired. And their harmonies are absolutely beautiful. So if you appreciate music in that way, definitely give their album a listen. That's my song for this week.
I think we got very emotional with this song.
This is the end of the year emotions coming all into a wrap. Yes. So thanks for joining us this week. If you're listening on YouTube or SoundCloud, leave us a comment, even if it's just to say hi.
And if you would like to be a part of our podcast as a guest, or have any suggestion about what you would like to hear, send us an email at newbridgeglobal@gmail.com.